In this video, we're going to start working on the charging system on our Model A over here. So let's hop over to the bench and see what we're getting ourselves into. All right, let's get back to work on our Model A here. I actually have 3 previous videos on this tractor. The first tractor, I bought this thing, it was seized, it had not run in over 30 years. I got it freed up and I got it running, so I'll link that here. The next video, I went ahead and I tore apart the cooling system because it was packed completely full of mouse nest. And I put in a new radiator core, and I also replaced the clutch components and got that working, so I'll put that link right here. And then the last video, prior to this one, I got to work on the block here because the block was packed full of rust and I got that cleaned out. Got the cooling system filled back up and we got that going again. So I'll put that link right here. Now I want to get to work on the charging system. When I bought the tractor, the generator was not on the tractor and you can see the voltage regulator was missing a cover and things like that. So I don't even know if that thing works. Probably not. It's been exposed to the elements for a long time, so I'm probably better off just getting a new one. But we're going to hop over to the bench here and take a look at the generator. So first thing I want to do is to try to test the generator to see if it's going to work or not. So let me get set up on the tripod and I'll show you just how to do that. So 1 second. Alright guys, here's my generator that was on the A. So when I got the tractor, it was actually off the tractor. So someone took it off for whatever reason. I believe this is a Delco Remy. It looks like it from pictures I've seen, and that is the common generator that's on these tractors. Right here, there's supposed to be a serial tag that would tell you where it is, but it's obviously missing. So I don't know 100% for sure. So she does spin freely, runs, really good. So there's these little caps here. I've been putting oil in this one and in, where is it? This one back here. There's like a little sponge in there that absorbs the oil, and it keeps the bearings lubricated in there, so she spins pretty freely, so that's good. So now I'm going to show you how to bench test it, okay? So you can see we do have a problem here. You see the way this one's set up? This is like a little insulated washer here, and there's a nut that basically holds this up, and then another nut that the wire going to your voltage regulator would go to. You can see someone has taken this apart, right? So I got the threads started on this, but the threads are pretty rusted up and boogered, but I'm still going to be able to test this. So I'll show you how to test this here. Let me get set up on the tripod and we'll give her a shot here. 1 second. Okay, so a generator is basically an electric motor. The way the tractor uses it, it does it in reverse, right? So the tractor spins this and it ultimately spits out voltage here and charges the tractor. You can also use a generator as an electric motor. If I apply power here, it'll spin the pulley, and that's a way to check to see if your circuit's working or not. So there are 2 posts on here. It's going to be hard for you to see, but this one right here, there is an A right there, and there's an F right there. So A stands for armature, F stands for field, right? So there's 2 different circuits inside there. So you can bench test this by setting up a combination of wires to spin the motor. So first thing you want to do is you want to take your field here and you want to dead short it to the chassis. So I've got this bolt cleaned off right here. So you'll see why I'm doing this other part here in a minute, but I've also got this wire attached here. On the other side, I'm going to take my armature and attach it to the positive of the battery. Now it doesn't matter which way you do this, whether you do this positive or negative, but as far as attaching to the battery, because the generator will spin both directions, it doesn't care. But I'm just going to do it this way since it's laid out this way. So positive to positive. Again, I have my my field shorted out to the chassis, and I'm about to ground this. Now when I touch this wire, the motor should spin. So that's a good sign that at least the armature side of the motor is working properly. Now, the other test we can do to test the field side. Once I get this spinning, if I remove this clamp here, we should hear and see the motor speed up, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and touch the wire. Hopefully I can do this with you seeing it, okay? We're spinning along steady here. Now if I remove this, Hear the motor speed up? So that actually means my internal circuitry, I'm gonna detach that there so I don't short anything out. The internal circuitry of this generator is actually good, but I do have this problem here. I need to fix this because that's not ideal. So I think I'm still gonna have to try to take at least this back cover off to try to fix this portion of it. Maybe try to rethread this and see if I can't fix that up. But the good news is the generator is actually functional and actually seems to be functioning pretty well. So let me go ahead and clear some of this stuff out of the way, and I'm gonna start the disassembly process here and bring you along as I'm doing that. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we got ourselves a 7/16 socket. So there's these two long bolts that go all the way through here, and that's what holds, it basically sandwiches the two outside covers and the center housing together, right? So you take these two out. Oh, that actually didn't come apart too easy or too difficult. Take these off, and this back cover is going to pop off. And then you got to be careful because it's all going to want to try to slide apart on you there. Let's go ahead and get these bolts out the rest of the way. There we go. Little bit of corrosion on the inside of this bolt here, so it might be a little rusty inside here. And our second bolt. Yep, a little bit of corrosion inside there. All right, let's see. This cap pops off. There we go. Okay, so you'll know how this goes back together because there's a little dowel pin here and a hole right here so that you know where it goes back together. So you can see here, the shaft rides in here. I mentioned I was putting oil in these caps here. Down inside here, there's a couple holes and it's hollow in the back so that oil stays on there and helps lubricate this shaft here. You can kind of see this shaft must have been sitting down like that for a while with moisture in there because we got some rust on there. So we'll go ahead and try to clean that up. Okay, so now we're getting our first look at our brushes here. So these are the brushes right here. Here's, I believe this is called the commutator, if I'm not mistaken. And then here's our armature post. And here is our field post. So this is the field post I said I wanted to take a look at. So I'm going to go ahead and take this nut off here. We'll see what we're dealing with here. So yeah, that is, this wire here runs up to, it's going to be hard to see for you guys to see, but here, tell you what, let me go grab a flashlight and I'll show you what's up. Oh, actually, you know what? I got one right here. All right, now you can see down in there. All right, so this wire goes up here to this coil, so that's our field, and then our armature, that's this down here. Okay, so that's how that all works. So can't really clip this. What I think I'm going to try to do, this should pop out of this plastic housing. Well, it should. I'm going to see if I can't rethread that. I'll grab my tap and die set and see if I can't rethread that. 1 second, let me go get that and I'll bring you back. All right, I got that post to be able to take a nut, so that's good. It does look significantly shorter than the other one now that I'm looking at it. So it looks like somebody probably snapped this off at some point trying to get this apart. So I'm going to see if I can't order up another one of these posts. I'm not sure if you can or can't, but it looks like a removable piece. It looks like this wire just gets soldered through a little hole, excuse me, that goes through the that post there. So might be able to do that. Okay. Now, I added some more oil to this little bearing, or this little oiler cap there, and this is starting to move a lot smoother. Like it spins pretty freely, makes a little bit of noise, but it is also cocked right now. But I don't feel any movement up or down, left or right, you know, in or out, any of that sort of thing. So I think that bearing might be okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some electrical cleaner, and so we'll use that can there and spray it on here and clean up this surface here and this surface here to try to get that as shiny as possible. And I'm going to clean up some of the components in here too to try to get those as shiny as possible. And probably, so like I said, these are the brushes, and this spring, you can see I just moved it there, pushes on that. I'm going to get that all cleaned up and lubricated there so that spring is working properly. So I think everything in here is actually in decent shape. So I'm going to go ahead and get that all cleaned up. I'm going to go online and try to order a new 12-volt regulator for this tractor. And then I'm going to work on, cleaning up the housings on the outside here a little bit. Then we're going to work on putting it back together. So I'll bring you back once everything's looking all nice and clean. So stay tuned. All right, and we're back. As you can see, I got this all cleaned up pretty nicely here. I basically took my electrical engine cleaner and some a little bit of steel wool and a little bit of a Scotch-Brite, and I got that all shined up, and I got this all shined up, being careful not to damage any of this stuff here, so that looks good. Inside here, I kept spraying it down with the electrical cleaner and stuff like that. I took my Scotch-Brite and stuff on the metal in there and got that all shined up, so that's all in good shape. And I also got my armature post in the mail. Actually, it's my field post in the mail here. So this one is slightly different than the one I have here. So I think I mentioned in the last portion that right here, that wire is basically just soldered through a hole there. Well, this one doesn't have a hole. Come on, focus. This doesn't have a hole. It just has like a divot there. It looks like you fill with solder. I think that's how this works. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take a torch and heat that up. Hopefully pull it out there without damaging this wire. And then we're going to attempt to solder it to this on here. So let me get set up and we'll see if I can't show you how to do that. 1 second. All right, let's see if we can do this. So I've got this off to the side here. I'm going to try to not shoot the flame inside here. I'm going to try to shoot the flame, where are we at here? This direction, this way, and then over here and gently pull on this with my pliers and see if I can't slide that out of there. Let's see if we can get that solder melting first. I'll get my torch. All right. There we go, easy peasy. All right, let me get my other one over here, and we'll see if we can't get that soldered back on. 1 second. All right, well, we're set up here. Man, a guy really needs 3 arms to do this, but I've got it set up in the vise here, so I added a little bit of flux on there to try to help my situation here, but I'm going to try to heat it up really good here, and then start getting the solder down in that channel, and hopefully she sticks. So let's see what happens. Well, the end's stuck, but it's not really getting down in the channel there. Let me reset. I probably got it too hot right now. It's going everywhere but where I want it to go. There we go. Okay. All right, we'll let that cool off a little bit, and we'll see if she's stuck. 1 second. All right, looks like we got her to stick, so I think we're in business. Here's where I got the stem from. The company's called the Brillman Corporation, by the way, or Brillman Company. There's our part number. I also got this voltage regulator here. Show you here that we're going to put on in a minute here from the same company. So there's your part numbers, and there's the prices that I paid for it as of right now. So hopefully that helps you out. Okay, now let's assemble our stem. So we've got it came with a new plastic nut here. Or plastic, I guess that's a spacer, insulator, or whatever, and it helps it lock in place here because it's got an oval and that's got an oval. All right, so I got that in there. Put that in where it needs to be. Tuck our wire out of the way so that when we put our windings back in there, it's not in the way. Okay, so now we need to take our insulator, that's this guy, slide it on. Then we take a washer, and then a lock washer, and then one of the nuts. Tighten that bad boy on, snug it down. You know, I probably could stand to replace this insulator too, but it is working, so if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? So we're gonna keep it right as it is there. All right, here, we'll just take a small wrench here, tighten that up. Get that snug. Try not to crack our plastic nut. Don't have to go super tight with this, just tight enough. Okay, and then just for right now, we'll slide that on there for safekeeping. Slide that on there for safekeeping. Whoops. Here we go. Okay. All right, so we have to very carefully, keeping our brushes in place here where they're at, slide our motor up through the back here, right? So this is the back side of the housing, this is the front side. So we want to put it back together just the way we did. There is a little dowel right here, and there is a dowel right here. So that's where those need to go back together. So try to keep that in mind. So just want to slowly slide that through, make sure we're not catching on anything. Yep. And then get our dowel in there, okay? That's right back where it needs to be. All right, so now we can take our backside. So this also has a little dowel right here, and there's a little hole right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and very gingerly, just gonna make sure my brushes, yep, almost forgot to slide my brushes back out so they're making contact with my commutator there. Okay, so now they're making contact. Okay, that all looks good. All right, now let's put her back together. Okay, get our washer or our bolts back in there. These are kind of hard to get back in their place. They only go, whoops, they only go one spot, and they're really long, so it's kind of hard to get them to line up. But once you get them, there we go. I think I found it. Oh, maybe not. They want to go straight down. Come on. Of course, I'm going to struggle on camera here. Let's try this one first. All right, there we go. We got them both in. It's kind of a wrestling match. You got to have them just perfect. Where they go in, they're kind of raised up a little bit. So you got to have it just perfect as you're doing it. So, just so you know. Go ahead and snug those down. Let's see, again, that's a 7/16. Okay, don't over torque those because you can snap them off. They are quite long. All right, make sure that everything seems to roll easily. Still does, so that's good. All right. So now let me get a battery out and we'll test this again to make sure it still rolls over, make sure I didn't dig anything up down there. Okay, so 1 second. All right, we're all set up again to test this. So just for reference, we've got our field post and our armature post. I've got our armature going straight to positive. Our armature going straight to positive. Our field is grounded out right here using this lead, and I've got another lead here that I'm going to touch to the negative. So when I touch this, the motor should turn. And then if I take this off, the motor speeds up. Okay, so that means our internal circuitry is working. So now we're ready to mount that voltage regulator. So 1 second. All right, here's where we're at. I've got our voltage regulator mounted to the generator itself. So something important to note here. All of the contact points here, you want to make sure you have clean metal surfaces, okay? So the voltage regulator needs to ground to the chassis on the generator, and then your mounting locations here, and there's one down here, and on your bracket here, you want to make sure those all have clean metal as well, because you need to make sure that this is all grounded to the chassis of the tractor, okay, to complete the circuit, because it does involve the battery. The battery is grounded to the chassis, so you want to make sure that you're grounded to the chassis. Okay, on our voltage regulator, we have 3 terminals here. This one has, you can hardly see it, but there's an L there. This one doesn't have anything, and then this one has an F. F stands for field, L stands for lights, and this one should be a B for battery, okay? So you want to take your field and run a wire to the field on your, you can see that there, field on your generator. On the back here, there is a ground wire, okay? The ground wire you run to your armature, okay? Now that only leaves 2 more wires that need to be hooked up once we get onto the tractor here. So here's our John Deere wiring diagram here, right? So that's what it shows you. So you've got your L terminal, you've got your F terminal, so you can see the F here goes from here to that F, same as this. Your L has nothing right now, but that'll get hooked up on the tractor, and then your ground right here goes to the other, there's only 2 terminals, so that one's the F, so this one's the A, so the ground goes to the armature, okay? Now the rest of it gets handled over there on the tractor, So let's go over to the tractor and start getting this bad boy set up. 1 second. All right, folks, here we are. I've got everything mounted up over here, and we'll just kind of walk through what we got going on. So our bracket goes here. The bracket is slightly slotted, so it gives you a little bit of adjustment left and right, so you can make sure that your pulleys are lined up. So leave that kind of loose until you get everything together, and then you can kind of fine-tune to make sure your pulley is lined up right here. I don't know, it's kind of hard to show you on the camera here, but it's pretty darn close, okay? And I mean, these things aren't running 5,000 RPMs anyways, so if it's not perfect, no big deal, okay? So that's mounted up. I haven't tightened these up yet because I need to get a belt on here, but those are on there. And then our adjuster here is there. So see, I got it all sloppy loose, so we can make fine-tuning adjustments once we get our belt. Okay, let's talk about wiring. So you already saw this. You already saw this. I mentioned there was 2 wires that need to be hooked up. So our wiring diagram here shows red and black. It shows white and black. I don't have white available, so my white is red, okay? So let's start with the black. So right here it shows the black is coming off the L terminal, and it runs over here to the ignition switch. It also, you know, there's lighting in there too. My lighting I'm not gonna hook up right now because I need a light switch, so we're gonna just bypass that for the moment, but come off the L and we go up to the ignition switch, okay? So I've got our black hooked up here to the L, pop up here. Someone had installed a key ignition switch on this, if you remember, and here is my black wire. Now, this also shows the center wire, so that should be a B terminal for battery. This one doesn't say anything, but that is what that terminal is, okay? So that wire, the white wire, in my case the red wire, runs all the way up here, and it goes to the left side of the ammeter, okay? So red wire hooked up here, and I've got it hooked up to the left side of the ammeter, okay? Now let's look back at the ammeter here, right? So the rest of the ammeter, it has a wire coming down here and going to the hot side of the starter, okay? So let's walk around to this side of the tractor here, and I'll show you. My yellow wire runs down here and exits here and goes to the hot side of the starter, okay? So we should have power everywhere. Now, we'll go back over here and look at our ammeter and see what happens when we just turn the key right now. We're not gonna start it, we're just gonna turn the key and show you. All right, so, whoops, there's our ammeter right there. So turn the key on to give it power, and you can see it goes to the left side on draw. So that means it's detecting that the battery is on and it is drawing that way. So now, once we get the generator hooked up and it works properly, we should see that needle go the other way to the positive side once we get the tractor going, okay? So I need to run and get a belt. So I'll run and get the belt, and then we will get the belt on, and there's one last step, and that's gonna be polarizing the generator, and I'll walk you through that once we get back, so 1 second. All right, guys, we're back. We've got our belt on. It's a little bit shorter than I wanted it to be, but there's plenty of adjustment here in our sliding adjuster here, so we're good. We got a good tight fit on there. You can pull on it, you can turn over the engine of the tractor, and everything's good, so that's good. All right, last step here is we need to polarize the generator. So I mentioned that in the previous clip, but a generator can run in 2 directions, and that's positive ground or negative ground. So we need to basically polarize it or teach it which way this tractor is wired. So this tractor is factory positive ground wired, so that's the way I still have it right now, meaning the positive on the battery runs to the hot side of the starter, which runs up to the ammeter, and the ammeter runs to this post right here, right? So that's hot positive right there. So in order to do that, you need to take a jumper wire and short it from the bat terminal on your voltage regulator to the armature, which is this one, on your generator. And you should get a spark when we do that. There, hopefully you saw that. So that means this generator is now polarized. So now we should be able to start this bad boy up and see if it's charging. So let me go ahead and get set up and we'll do that. Okay, here we go. Focus. All right, so we're going to turn the switch. See, it draws toward the negative side. Now we're going to try to start the tractor. She's charging, boys! All right, let's go over to the battery. See if we can't get a voltage reading. All right, let's see what we got here. gonna be hard to do with one hand, but we'll try to make do. Tell you what, let me grab some alligator clips. 1 second. See her drop? She's dropping down. So we are charging. I just turned the ignition switch back on and put a little draw on it too, so you can see it, you know, slowly working back down. All right, so let's go ahead, come over here. I can't show you at the same time. I don't have 45 arms, but we'll start it back up again and just show you that it's charging again. Back up. All right, we got her charging. I'm pretty satisfied with that. I'm glad I didn't have to really tear apart that generator to get her to work. So I think the only logical thing to do now is to go for a tractor ride. So my fuel cans are empty, and I have a general store about 2.5 miles away. So what I'm going to do is hop on the old A here, fire up, hook on a trailer, put the gas cans in, and we'll mosey on down the road and see how this thing does in a little bit longer term test. Like I said, you know, about 2.5 miles down the road, should be a good test. Get a little bit more heat into her, you know, run her down the road, see what happens here, and monitor that charging system. So let's go ahead and start her up and go get that trailer. All right, so we got our fuel on. Now, tractor should be pretty warm. I was just running it a few minutes ago, as you guys all saw. So, all right, we'll hop up on the pedestal there. I got my ball on my hitch already. Oh, hard to hop up in this bad boy with one arm. Okay, fuel on. Start her up. There we go. All right. What's that? We got our trailer loaded up. Let's head on down the road and see what happens. Pressure's holding good, still charging, temperature hasn't come up, neighbors are giving me funny looks, but all is good. Bring it back as we get to our destination. Alright, we're approaching our destination, everything still looks good. Temperatures may be coming up a hair, but it's not doing much of anything, so we're staying nice and cool. It's about 60 degrees out, so it's not even very hot today, but we're still charging, still got good oil pressure, still butting right along, so we'll go in, hit up the gas station up here, fill everything up, turn around, and head back. All right, we're all fueled up and ready to make the journey back. I threw a couple more gallons in the old A here too, just in case. So here we go. We're about halfway back now. All the vitals are looking good. She's chugging right along, just like it's nothing. All right, we made her back home. I'd call it a successful journey. Like I said, temperature never came up, so she's cooling properly. Maintained the same oil pressure the whole time. It was charging the whole time. Yeah, looking real good. So, all right, let me go ahead and get everything unloaded here, and we'll pull her back inside, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. So stay tuned. All right, we're all backed in and put away, and that charging system is up and running again. So we made this list of things we wanted to work on back, a long time ago. I think back in the second video that we made. So let's go ahead and start crossing things off here. So cooling system, check. Radiator, yup. Charging system, all done. Yep. Clutch, done. All done. Hydraulics, we'll talk about that in a second, and fluids. Well, we already did the engine oil. You saw that in one of my earlier videos. But still haven't done the transmission fluid. So let's talk about hydraulics for a second here. I did attempt to get the hydraulics working a while ago. So I checked the fluid here. It was low. So I added fluid right here. Hydraulic fluid in here, and I attempted to get them to work. So on this particular model, there's no live hydraulics. I have a John Deere AR that actually has a pump somewhere up in that region there that when the engine is off, you flip a lever and it engages with the fan shaft and runs a pump which powers the hydraulics independently of everything else. This model doesn't have that. So on this model, the hydraulics work through the PTO. So the hydraulic pump engages with the PTO. It only runs when the PTO shaft is spinning. So that's how you get your hydraulics to work. So let me attempt to show you here. So here is the lever to engage the PTO. I'm not going to do this with the tractor running. I did once, and it, quite frankly, wasn't a good situation. So I don't know, hopefully this will work with this pipe wrench here, but yeah, when you get to certain points in here, you feel like a slipping, grinding noise, right? So when I did it with the tractor running, you hear this. So something is not right. The pump was working because these did move, but there's a gear that's got a chipped tooth or something going on in there. So we're gonna have to tackle, that in the next video. So something isn't right. Like, you can just feel it. It doesn't turn smooth. Sometimes it does, but there's certain spots in there where you just feel like a clunking, like something's messed up, something's missing type of thing in there, okay? So that's what's going on with the hydraulics. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. In the next video, we will tackle those hydraulics and see if we can't figure out what the problem is there. So hopefully you enjoyed learning about the charging system on these old Model A John Deere tractors, and pretty much any antique tractor is about the same way that the charging system works. So you can apply that knowledge that I taught you here to many, many other tractors that have a generator and a voltage regulator system. So thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll keep this sort of thing going. Until the next one, signing off.